All right, so get ready because today we are diving headfirst into the world of the Dutch language. And we're talking some seriously in-depth linguistic stuff here. Should be fun.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Most people, I think, when they think of Dutch, they think, okay, it's like kind of sort of a mix of like German and English, right?
Right. Like our source even says, and I quote, it's colloquially said to be roughly in between them. But how true is that really?
Well, yeah, it's more complicated than that, as with most things in linguistics. So yeah, it's West Germanic, so it's related to English and German, of course, but it's more like, imagine they're siblings.
Okay, I like where you're going with this.
Yeah, so they're siblings, but they've all had these completely different upbringings, shaping who they are.
So what experiences made Dutch?
So, like, one of the biggest things that happened in the evolution of the Germanic languages, it's called the High German Consonant Shift. And that really changed how words sound. It's kind of like English and Dutch were the well-behaved kids, and German was like, you know what? I'm going to do things my way, and just went through this rebellious phase. Hence all those, like, harsher sounds.
So like Dutch kept it real, stayed true to its roots.
Exactly. And this is like the jackpot for people learning languages, right?
Oh, tell me more.
So because Dutch skipped that whole consonant shift thing, the grammar is considered much easier than German, especially those verb endings. Ugh.
Wait, are you saying learning Dutch is easier? That's a game
It's
changer.
definitely something to think about, although it's not all smooth sailing. It's got its quirks, of course. Like, it kept some sounds that English and German actually lost, called guttural fricatives.
Guttural what now?
Guttural fricatives, yeah. It sounds scarier than it is. It's like, think of the G in go, or like that chi sound, like in loch, the Scottish word.
Okay.
So those are guttural fricatives, and they're like a huge part of what makes Dutch sound like, well, Dutch. We should play some clicks later so you can hear it.
Yes, I love it. But before we get too far into how it sounds, I have kind of a language nerd question.
Mm-hmm.
The source keeps using the word Nederlands. So where does the word Dutch come from?
Oh, man, that is a linguistic rabbit hole. Okay, so Dutch actually comes from Theodiscus, meaning language of the common people. So imagine like back in the day when Latin was all the rage for fancy scholars and religious stuff, Theodiscus was for everyday people, and they used it in the Low Countries, which is where they spoke, well, Dutch.
Hold on. So like geography played a part in all this? Like
Yeah.
I'm picturing those old maps with mountains and stuff separating countries and languages.
It's all connected. The Low Countries versus the High German areas, it makes sense, right?
Mhm.
Those differences in geography actually changed how people talked, how languages split off and became their own thing. But back to Dutch, it's interesting how the meaning changed as it traveled through time and place, the whole journey.
That is so cool. But let's get back to the language itself. The source talks about this evolution from Old Dutch to Middle Dutch and then what we know today. That's wild.
It's a wild ride for sure. Okay, so imagine this. It all starts with the Franks. Those guys who conquered Gaul.
Yeah.
So their language didn't just disappear. It actually stuck around the Low Countries and eventually morphed into Old Dutch.
No way.
Yeah.
You're telling me you can trace it back to the people who took over Gaul. Now that's a family tree. So what happened next? How do we get from Old Dutch to what we hear now?
Well, like any good story, there's got to be some drama, right? So during the time of Middle Dutch, all these dialects were duking it out, kind of mirroring the political scene, actually.
Hold up. You're saying different places were basically fighting over language,
Okay.
like arguing about verb tenses and stuff. I need to know more about these dialect battles.
Oh, it's juicy stuff, trust me. But basically, in the middle of all this fighting, something big happened. The Statenvertelling Bible, it gets published in 1637. This wasn't just any book, it was like the book, a total bestseller. And it actually changed Dutch, like standardized it in a way.
Wow. One book did all that.
Yeah.
It's crazy how much influence a single book had, especially back then, like no social media or anything. Makes you wonder how they got the word out.
That's probably another deep dive right there. But yeah, the Statenvertelling, it really shaped what we think of as modern Dutch. Pretty wild, right?
Wild. It's like a linguistic puzzle, putting all the pieces together. Speaking of puzzles, what's the deal with all those cute little Dutch words? You know what I'm talking about, those diminutives?
Yes, the erges. They're everywhere. And don't let the cuteness fool ya. They're surprisingly tricky.
It's true. Like the source makes it clear that they don't just use them for nouns. You can use them on numbers, adverbs, even prepositions. It's like they put je on everything. So like, what is up with that?
So it's not just about being cute, right? It's about all these subtle meanings. Like imagine your friend saying they had a gesprechje. literally, a little talk.
Sounds harmless enough.
Right. But depending on how they say it, that Gespräche could have been anything from a quick, hey, how are you, to like a 4-hour deep dive into the meaning of life.
Get out. Seriously. So those little words are like linguistic weapons or something, all cute and small, but with a hidden punch.
Exactly. They can soften things, make them funny, or even be kind of sarcastic, like a dash of, I don't know, hot sauce changes the whole flavor.
Okay, my mind is blown. Those little gestures. I need a minute to process this.
Take your time, take your time. But before we get totally lost in the land of diminutives, there's something else we got to talk about. Something that takes Dutch way beyond the Netherlands.
Wait, going global. Because I did notice our source mentioned Dutch popping up in some pretty surprising places. This is going to be good. All right, so global adventures in Dutch. I am so ready. Where are we going first?
First stop, Indonesia. Talk about a linguistic legacy, right?
I know. The Dutch East Indies, right? It's Indonesia now, but still.
Yep. And even though Dutch rule ended, the language, it really stuck around, like a lot of the Indonesian vocabulary. Straight from Dutch.
The source actually says 20%. That just blows my mind, I gotta say. It's like
Yeah.
2 languages woven together.
It goes even deeper than that. Get this. Indonesia's civil code, still based on the Dutch one from like way back when.
Wow. So even though they don't officially speak Dutch there anymore,
Yeah.
it's still part of like the fabric of things. That's powerful.
Super powerful. All right, ready for the next stop? Let's hop over to Suriname. Totally different vibe, linguistically speaking.
Okay, from Indonesia to Suriname, is it? Let's do it. The source mentioned it, but what makes it so unique language-wise?
So picture this.
Yeah.
You've got Dutch, the official language, right? Used in government, schools, all that formal stuff.
Right.
But then you have Sranantongo, and that is the heart and soul of everyday conversation in Suriname.
Sranantongo. It even sounds cool. What is that exactly?
It's a Creole language, which means it's like this amazing blend of Dutch and all these other languages that enslaved Africans brought with them. So you've got this official Dutch with its whole colonial past right alongside Sranantongo, which is all about resilience, mixing cultures.
It's like 2 sides of the same story, and both are told through language. And it makes you think language isn't just about talking, it's about who you are, your past, all of that.
100%. It's the weight of those words, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so from Asia to South America, Dutch has had quite the impact.
Yeah.
But we can't forget about Africa itself, right? We got to talk about Afrikaners.
We can't leave it out. It's like that kid who moved away and found their own style, you know? Familiar but different.
Totally. Is it like Dutch's sibling, cousin, what? The source said they share tons of vocabulary, but there's obviously more to it.
Think of it this way. Dutch goes on this trip to South Africa, right? And along the way, it picks up bits and pieces from other languages. Malay, Portuguese, languages from the people who already lived there. Boom. Afrikaners.
Okay, that's a visual. So like how much of that original Dutch flavor is left in Afrikaans today? Could they like understand each other?
Kind of. Apparently, it's way easier for Dutch speakers to get Afrikaans than the other way around. That's what the source says.
So basic stuff, maybe? Ordering a coffee, talking about the weather. But anything deeper, I'm guessing that gets lost in translation.
For sure. The grammar, the way they say things, it's all gone in different directions. So yeah, more like a one-way mirror.
Fascinating. It's like they could hear echoes of each other, you know, but they aren't speaking the same language anymore. It makes you think, what if we could time travel, right? Go back and hear Dutch from like way back. Would we even recognize it? It really makes you think, doesn't it? Like how much would we understand? Language is always changing, like you said.
Yeah.
But this isn't just like new slang, right? This is like whole new versions of Dutch popping up.
And that's why this whole time travel thing is so cool to think about. Like, what if we went back to, say, 14th century Flanders, Middle Dutch, right? We'd be swimming in dialects.
Okay, so I'm picturing myself in some medieval market, people speaking Middle Dutch all around. How lost would I be, really?
I think. You'd pick up words here and there for sure, like recognizing a face in a crowd, maybe. But the grammar, how they said things, totally different ballgame.
So less, hey, I got this, more like, where's my phrase book?
Pretty much. You could get by, but it'd be work. But okay, fast forward a bit. 17th century Amsterdam. Think you could hang.
Okay, now we're talking. Canals, art, Rembrandt. Do I need that phrase book or am I good?
You'd be in much better shape for sure. Remember the Staten-Vertaling Bible?
Yeah, yeah.
So by then things were getting standardized. People could actually understand each other, even from different areas.
It's a little less dialect chaos.
Exactly. There'd be differences, obviously, but that foundation, for one, like unified Dutch was there, throw in some effort, maybe a few cute little leges here and there.
I could rock those.
I think you'd manage just fine. Okay, last stop, South Africa, early 1900s. Think you could order a coffee and Africans have a chat.
Ooh, now that's the test, right? Because Africans,
Yeah.
that's like our cousin who went on a solo backpacking trip and came back, changed.
Perfect way to put it. So how much do you think you'd understand?
Well, some words, definitely. But the grammar, how they're saying it, like
Yeah.
I'm in a familiar city, but someone moved all the street signs.
Exactly. You might need to ask for directions, but you could find your way.
Wow, this whole time travel thing has been wild. Language, it's not just words on a page, is it? It's alive, always changing.
Never stay still. And that's what's so amazing, right? It's more than just talking. It's history, it's culture, it's everything we are.
This has been an incredible deep dive. From funny sounds to cute words, colonial islands to the tip of Africa.
It just goes to show every language has these hidden depths, you know? Even the ones we think we know.
And for everyone listening, I bet you'll never hear the word Dutch the same way again. Until next time, keep exploring, keep listening. You never know what you'll discover.